All right, so welcome back. We are part two of our digital cutter series. We are going to prep our fabric, meaning that we're going to spray some stuff on here to stiffen it up. We want to put our fusible webbing on here and apply it to the cutting mat and then send it through the machine. So let's first talk fusible here. What I prefer to use for digital cutters is Misti Fuse. It's an extremely light and transparent fusible. These are all doubled up, but this is one layer of Misti Fuse. It's very light. It's not going to gum up your needle or anything like that. The big difference is that it doesn't have a paper backing, so you can't use it for tracing or anything like that, but you can use it for digital cutters. It also washes away. I don't wash these types of quilts too often, but if that's a concern of yours, this will wash away eventually. First thing we're going to do is iron our fabric down. We first want to get any wrinkles out. So I'm just going to lightly starch it. And then the next thing we're going to use is Material Magic. This basically stiffens up this fabric until it's almost like a paper. Not quite a cardboard, but it's definitely, you can see right now, it's flimsy. It acts just like fabric. What we want to do is stiffen that up. That's going to give us a better, more accurate cut. But it is also going to make it stiffer. So when we go to quilt it, kind of give it a little bit of a stiff shape. So it's kind of a fine line, really. I mean, you want it stiff enough so that it can cut nicely, but you don't want it too stiff that it doesn't, feel like fabric. We're going to spray it down here, iron this in, and we're going to do this a couple times until we get it to kind of the consistency that we kind of like. And how you find that, it's just going to take a little bit of trial and error, but you'll eventually kind of be able to determine how much is too much, how little is too little. Definitely, if you have small, thin shapes or pointed shapes, you probably want to err on the side of a little bit more, because you're going to get a better cut the more this is like paper. Let's take a gander here and see. Yeah, now you can see it's really starting to roll and feel like like I said, not a cardboard, but definitely, give it a little bit more on the edges, and that's going to be it. That should be good. Once you've prepped that with Material Magic, we're going to want to apply fusible to one side of this fabric. So I'm going to grab a applique pressing sheet. To just one side of that. And so now I'm going to kind of lay that on there. And then cut off the excess. Alright. You can see my fusible's a little over the edge of some areas. I want to make sure it covers it completely. But when I go to iron this, I want to make sure my iron doesn't touch that fusible and gum everything up. So I'm keeping it just to the inside edge there. Now I have this on top of the applique pressing sheet, and that is once it cools off, it'll be able to peel right off of that, and everything will be fused to the back side of the fabric. And while I'm doing this, I'm going to mention In the software part of it, those pieces that I was laying out, they are not reversed. Now, normally in the Quilt Fusion patterns, everything's reversed because you're going to be tracing and then fusing, and so it gets flipped on. In this case, the fusible webbing's going on the bottom side, and it's going to cut around the top, so it doesn't need to be reversed. So just keep that in mind, that the cutting files are not reversed, but the tracing files are. All right. So this is the fusible side, this is the top side, and now I've got my cutting mat. Now, along with how stiff your fabric is, you also want your cutting mat to be very sticky, okay? If it starts losing its stick, you can spray some 404 spray and fix on here. Just give it just a really quick shot over there, and it'll help bring that stickiness back. But one of the things is this fabric needs to be completely adhered to this cutting mat. We're going to burnish it down. We're going to make sure it's like one with the cutting mat, because the more you can get that on there and stuck to it and not pulling up, the better cut you're going to have. Now you can see I'm laying this down over top of where it needs to be. Like I said, I have overcut my fabric just to be safe. Okay, so that's on there now. I'm going to take this over to a hard surface, and I'm just going to burnish this down really good all over against a hard tabletop surface so that I can get a really nice adhesion to the cutting mat. Okay, we're back. I've burnished this on here. You could use the backside of a spoon too. You don't need that little burnishing tool, but anything that's going to really press that on there. This is now ready to go through the cutter. So I'm going to take it over to the computer, send it through, start the cutting process, and then I'll bring it back here and we'll peel it up and see how well we did. All right, so the moment of truth here. This has gone through the cutter, and I've got my scissors, X-Acto blade here to help me out in case there's any like little stragglers. Nothing pulled up, so that's all good. So I'm just going to go ahead and start pulling from a corner here. And very carefully hope that everything is perfectly cut. Looking good. Perfect. Looks awesome. So one thing, I can take the tracing guide from my pattern here, and I just want to make sure all of these pieces are correct. Now keep in mind the tracing guide is reversed, so these are not. So I'm going to just reverse them to check the size on there, but that looks all good. I believe this is the bridle on one of the horses. Pull this up. Perfect. So you can see completely accurate, size is awesome. These are good. So I can go through these, pull these up, match them up with the numbers so I know where they're going to be placed, and then go ahead and start doing my next round of fabrics. I need to set up the file. I need to rearrange them, you know, for efficiency, and then or economy of the fabric. Then prep that fabric again, apply it to the cutting mat, and send it through the cutter, and you're good to go. All right, that's it. If you got any questions, you can post them on the YouTube video. You can post them on our Facebook page. We also are really good about getting back to people if you post comments on our blog or on the help pages. We can usually help people out pretty quickly that way. If you have any questions, post them there. Please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and share your projects with us. We'd like to see them. All right, talk to you later.